I'm Erin Del Conte. I'm the executive editor with C-Store Decisions magazine, and this session is on lessons from COVID, how the industry is recovering from the pandemic. So the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, as we all know, are continuing to unfold on the retail sector and the supply chain. Retailers are grappling still with supply disruptions, labor shortages, and price increases. So today, our retail panelists are going to share some of what they're seeing and how they're navigating these challenges today. So with me today, our panelists are Colin Dornish, the Director of Operations for Cohen Markets, and Derek Gaskins, Chief Marketing Officer for Yesway. So we're going to hear first from each of our panelists. They're going to tell us a bit about what's going on at their stores. And then I'm going to kick it off with some questions before we open it up to the floor for all of your questions and maybe a sharing of some of the things you're all experiencing. So Colin, do you want to kick us off?
Yep. Thank you, Erin, and thank you everybody for being here. Definitely the NAG team did a great job putting this one together. I know it's not easy, but great assembly here and glad to be in person. So the team Cohen is excited to be able to share our story today. We've had the opportunity to kind of chat with a few of you over the last couple of days. Really appreciative of your time. We learn a lot through these events. Share a quick little video about Cohen. This was last Tuesday. We opened up a location in Steubenville, Ohio.
So today we're at Steubenville, site 1810. We're just about to open up this location here, getting ready to give our friends and family a nice showing. So this location is special for us. So it's literally the last location that we have to do in the Ohio Valley. Never went through Rough Creek remodel here. We just went straight to Cohen. And today is a big change for us in this particular location. It's going to be our smallest kitchen format to date, just under 2,300 square feet, and bringing hot foods back to the Steubenville store.
Beyond my expectations, beyond. I didn't think that they could fit all this into one little area. I think the community is going to be very happy with it. This means a lot to this area because this area doesn't have a lot to do. A lot of people walk, a lot are elderly. This is all they have is us. And now we have bigger and better opportunities for them.
As everyone we've done, we've gotten a little bit better, and this team really knocked it out of the park as far as getting the site ready, getting the whole entire staff ready, from our training and development team to our food service team. Everybody kind of chipped in and really had a well-oiled machine on this one. Everybody played their part. Everybody kind of stepped up on this one, and we've got a great-looking site today.
So we're having a lot of fun at Cohen, and we believe in Darwinism, especially in this industry, and continuing to push ourselves to evolve the brand, evolve the offer, and really have been on an aggressive path to go through our store rebranding effort and building best-in-class buildings in our area. So we've been around since 1923, but we call ourselves the 99-year-old startup company. Because everything we're doing is changing. We're changing technology, POS, and basically there's no part of our business that we're not changing. The only thing different from us versus a startup is we actually have to look at trying to make money versus some private equity deal. But at the end of the day, we're really focused on that experience and making sure we're continuing to push our brand across our entire chain. So we have 56 stores. We're located in southwestern PA. We have 45 locations in southwestern PA, and then 11 locations in Ohio and West Virginia. We've really kind of come through a branding journey with our team and trying to create that culture, create the brand, create the experience from all aspects of the team members' experience with Cohen. So publishing our core principles and making sure folks know what our mission is to impress and satisfy our guests with each and every visit. long-standing timeline here, but we're just showing it for the depth of kind of the business evolving over the years. If you start back to kind of how we were founded off of a World War II bond, going through the whole entire process of transitioning and being a dealer business, then being a store business, then selling off some of our stores, and then having an energy support services business that was big in the Marcellus Utica, and then monetizing that business in 2017 now to be 100% focused on retail. We have a significant regional presence. I've had conversations with several of you. If you take an hour circumference of Pittsburgh, we get 95% of our locations. So tight service area for us kind of really helps out being able to be nimble with staff, supplies, logistics. We've got a couple on the outskirts there. Our main focus has been really the food, coming food first, as many of you in this room are. We have a distinctive product. We have a quality, fresh, never frozen chicken program. We have a from scratch fresh dough product pizza program too, as well, to complement the fried chicken, and are continuing to expand our offerings as we look at where the future of food goes in our space. We're trying to really promote the team and making sure folks realize what it means to be a Cohen team member, and really created a Cohen community. We'll talk about some of the things during what we did with COVID to really keep people in the loop, but created a Cohen community internal Facebook page, and folks are sharing their Cohen story with their team members and being able to show the pride that they have in their locations. We launched a loyalty application April 2021, and continuing to refine that. We kind of came late to the space in loyalty in our marketplace. Some of the big players have been pioneers of loyalty programs, so we really wanted to make sure we got this program right, and being able to offer our customers not only great discounts, but also our team members with our team member rewards side of the loyalty program. Continuing to promote it within the communities in which we operate. Being a part of the community is very important, making sure you're there when the community needs you. Obviously, through the pandemic, we had to make sure we were there for all the folks that needed us in the communities in which we operated. This is just a little bit of a snapshot of our rebranding efforts. So if you see, the top right was our previous go-to-market brand, Rough Creek Markets, and then the bottom left was Cocos. Cocos had been around since 1960. It was a family business. They at one point got up to 100 sites. When we purchased them, December of 2018, they had 36 company-operated locations and 9 franchisees. They looked similar to what you would see in the bottom left. And so I think the theory around Darwinism and why it's really important to continue to evolve. If you look at that location on the bottom left, what we did to that location in about a month and a half is the top left. So really transforming store imagery and store location and look, taking dated retail and trying to modernize it with a new, fresh, clean brand. The one on the bottom right is obviously the Rough Creek Markets, just remodeled. So we've been going through these remodels and really trying to give our strategy of what we were trying to do after the energy divestiture. So our chairman, was quoted as saying we want to double our size coming up here, and literally within a year we were able to do that. Now that was inorganic growth through acquisition, but really kind of set us on the course of where we're going as a brand, and we've been working through those sites for the better part of the last 24 months. So transforming 2 brands together to kind of build a new regional presence. You can see the map. So as we did diligence, the Cocos acquisition for us was kind of the yin to our yang. When you look at just the overlapping territory, you've got all those yellow C's and then all the legacy white C's kind of coming together and creating a nice symmetry in our marketplace. And it just, once we saw that picture, the acquisition made 100% sense for us to continue to go down that path. This is our Project 1, so everybody has a starting point as far as where the brand was born. This was a location in Norvelt, Pennsylvania. When we purchased the location, they had a deli, they had 10-foot high gondolas. Over to the far right, you can't see it, but there was a physical therapy shop in this location. So get your food and also get yourself adjusted while you're there. We were able to transition that to our first Cohen location, really working through with some branding elements and design. This is where we kind of started it off, and obviously we made some mistakes. It probably took longer than we wanted to. We used maybe a couple wrong materials, but I think you learn from that. You continue to kind of drive forward and figure out what works. This is kind of the initial renderings of what we had, so we were going off of just images and then really had to kind of turn it into reality. And I think this was a pivotal moment for the brand and the team members to see something in concept really come to reality and be able to touch, feel, sit down at the booths and really enjoy a fresh piece of chicken. Again, through that time, so Norvell's happening, and then we acquire all these Cocos location, and Cocos was a lot of tired assets that needed a lot of love. And so this is just a kind of representation of where they were, lots of greens and reds and some dated brands and so forth. And we were able to quickly go through and transition those sites on a softer basis, not a major remodel, but a softer basis to just make sure that we got into one image, one voice across the entirety of our chain. Because, you know, for us, you have that brand density, you have the regional presence, but if people don't know who you are, it really doesn't make any impact on the consumer, and they don't really know who you are in your marketplace. So we were on an aggressive drive to do interior and exterior refreshes to make sure that, you know, when people saw our building, it was distinctive enough that they knew it was a Cohen location. That's as far as the overview. We'll get into the COVID discussion here. Derek has some slides too as well, but I did, if you want any advice, or we're happy to network and give you guys, share tips. We love continuing to learn in this industry, so I shared my contact information there, and you can get all my contact information if you scan the QR code. Derek?
Awesome. First of all, Colin, great job as a person that considered Pittsburgh home for about 10 years and was instrumental with Gecko and Giant Eagle and all the stuff we did. I knew Cocos well, and the work you guys have done to bring life to that brand and to that region is nothing short of phenomenal. So, I mean, great job. Stands tall. Certainly wanted to take a little bit of time to introduce Yesway for those who don't know, but also really talk about the way that we were able to navigate COVID. John and I were actually talking in the board meeting this week, and about really 2 years ago today, damn near, around not having a playbook for COVID or something along those lines. I think as an industry, we all take pride that we're prepared for anything that comes our way. I've always said that the convenience channel is recession resilient, if not proof. And it's because in good times and bad times, people come to us. Even in high prices, trading down, they come to us. When it's a tornado, a hurricane, natural disaster, fires, they come to us. We fuel the police, the fire, first responders, EMS, you name it. And we are beacons and pivotal to the communities that we serve. So some of my journey and story will be around the role that each of us played as essential retailers and making sure we kept operations going and the communities with as much sanity as we could frankly bring them. So I wanted to tell a little bit about Yesway. We are unique. When I first joined Yesway, I take pride in knowing almost every convenience operator that's out there nationally and almost globally, and I'd never heard of it. And so I was like, what is this Brookwood Financial Company? What's going on? And, I often joke and say we're, kinder, gentler private equity, still sharks, still EBITDA driven, still margin driven and highly profitable, but also fast. And I think as a channel, one thing I've taken pride in within the convenience channel is we're nimble, agile, flexible, and fast. Consumers come to us for speed. At the end of the day, we're selling speed. So from that aspect, having a private equity firm that chose the business to go after, that had a brand, private label aspirations and products, and a loyalty program, really almost before we had stores, and looked at those as engines of the growth to unify disparate assets and make them make sense from a customer-centric standpoint. So sharing a couple photos of the exec team and some of our recent stores and grand openings, but it has been nothing short of a whirlwind. The past, I've been there, it'll be 4 years this summer, so almost 4 years, and the growth has been astronomical. You know, when I joined, I think we had about 40 stores. We have 402. We span 9 states, and you know, from Iowa, the Dakotas, on down through Missouri, Kansas, Texas, New Mexico, and many of the other ones that we can infill. And those were conscious. Wanted to be more rural, wanted to be more suburban, wanted to cater to where the runway is a little longer and the growth prospects are still there and much stronger. So it really put our best foot forward. And Yesway as a brand, the strategy was all around acquisitions. Let's acquire everything from a truck stop on the large size to even grocery stores, down to a kiosk or a little, call it 1,200, 1,000 square foot site, and use dynamic branding, energy efficient lighting, bring merchandising world-class inside to manage the categories better and unleash what the potential is and create something where the sum of the parts is much larger than the whole. About a year and a half, we made a major pivot. We had an acquisition of Allsups. And for those of you who know Allsups or actually know Mr. Allsup, Lonnie Allsup, he passed away in 2018, and he was a maverick of a man. He had built a chain of 300 or so stores with one of the strongest food platforms in the industry. I can put my NAG's hat on because I remember being at NAG's and going out and trying to get Allsups to join. And Lonnie said, no, it's not for us. We don't share. We don't do those kinds of things. We're not going to do it. We've been successful on our own. And that's just the kind of person he was. So some of his stores were, it's almost what old is new again. It was a mix of fill-in grocery, and because there was a grocery wholesaler, able to get grocery store pricing in a convenience store setting. So milk and bread and eggs and all the fill-in stuff that you would think is very competitive with a Hy-Vee or H-E-B or a local grocer. But then also on the right side of the store was convenience items. And then in the heart of it was a center checkout, and that's where the true genius is, because from that center checkout, food service to tobacco to all the other anchor, impulse, confectionery, snacking in those categories, low labor model, you can service those needs and meet those needs. At the time, I didn't realize how prescient it was when something like COVID popped up. But in retrospect, I think that insulated us and it helped us perform as well, if not better than most. And I think as an industry, we all can look back now and say that we stepped up to the challenge and the bar. So with Allsups, that 60-year history, I'm a marketing guy, it's not to be taken lightly. It would take 50 years to build that. I mean, there's country songs written about it. There's people with Allsups tattoos. You look at hashtags, there are people who the wedding party will stop to get world famous burritos and do photo ops in front of an Allsups. I mean, it's stuff of legend. I can think every brand I've worked on, I used to say, I want people to feel so good about my brand and love it that they will tattoo their body. And here I get to Allsups country in New Mexico and Oklahoma, and it's happening. And in all these little West Texas towns, very dominant. Eastern New Mexico, the Permian Basin. So part of the challenge was then, let's integrate these cultures. We're going to operate 2 banners. It's the smart and right thing to do. And let's go fast, because that's what we do as an industry. Now, with innovation, we're looking at newer formats and concepts to modernize it. We're building about 50 stores a year, combination of NTIs and raise and rebuilds. We're still making acquisitions. Now that we've digested and done the hard work of integration, for those of you who know, that's not for the faint of heart. And all of the technology integration and back office, and most importantly, the people, the cultures, to get a team that works together as one, that's striving for excellence, that wants to win, that's what we set out to do. So we were comfortable going about our merry little way, and I distinctly remember being in DC for a lobbying event. We were in Senator Joni Ernst's office, and the world shut down. Her aides came in that day. Capitol Hill shut down, said no more visitors. Many of you may have been lobbying with NACS during that trip. And we flew back, and when we got back to our respective homes and districts, Everything that is now normal to us was hitting at that time. It was, hey, schools are going to be closed, work from home, without the tools to even know what that really meant. Mask mandates, all of these things. And, I remember talking to my merchandising team. It was Lisa and I and Alan, and we were looking at like PPE and things like that. And we were thinking, as long as we get something to take us through like mid-April, we're good. Not knowing 2 years later, we'd still be selling a lot of those products. And so as COVID hit, that impact was profound. I think the challenge for us was we had just made a huge acquisition. We had spent tremendous dollars to get the ERP, back office, loyalty upgrades, private label, get our wholesale network working properly, everything that you can think, and this unplanned for, unprecedented COVID virus comes and literally wreaks havoc. And so I have some words from our chairman and CEO, but he learned pretty quickly when me and my operations counterparts, our first challenge was, this is when we stand strong. This is when we, as retailers and merchants and an industry, show who we are, what we're made of. No hero complex or anything along those lines, but the communities are relying on us. Walmart's closing, grocery stores are closing, malls are closing, schools are closing. People can't get a hot meal, they can't get fill-in items, shelves are empty, supply chain struggling, all of that. And so we navigated. And so showing a picture of, some of the, kind of mid-2020, spring 2020 into early summer, where, we still had stores that we were renovating or holding a grand opening for, or a new store that we built, and trying to navigate that within the culture. Check presentations and, team members, and trying to unify all of the disparate, the ALSUPs, and stop having people saying, hey, I was ALSUPs and I was Yesway. Well, Yesway bought ALSUPs. We're one company now. We're in this together was a conscious choice of a phrase and words that we use. And in some ways, COVID actually accelerated things. First thing we did, we had a task force. We met every morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern time, and we got on the phone. It was ops, merchant marketing, and our CEO. And we just talked about what's needed, what do we have to do, what can we structure. I think then after that, we did what every one of your companies did. And this is where things like NAG are indispensable. We share. If you think about the idea exchanges and the sessions that we have, we talk about collective challenges. And I was able to pick up the phone and talk to folks. I was able to talk to Tony Miller at Delic and figure out what he's doing. Able to talk to my counterparts at Come and Go, other chains, and say, what are you seeing? What are you doing? And the first, logical things were, well, you got to make it so that people don't feel compelled to come to work if they're sick. So things like 2 to 3 weeks PTO, done. Other things, heroes pay. You have to increase it. Some people aren't comfortable working in this atmosphere. So to make ourselves a more attractive and desirable workforce, done. A step that we did with our loyalty program, we put stored value on the cards. And this is something that I pushed our CEO for, and he went there, done. How much? What levels? Because our people are struggling as well. And we looked at it as, I can put that money in their pockets and they can spend it anywhere, or I can load it on our value cards, and it teaches them how to use loyalty. And then to help sell loyalty to other customers. But better yet, they can buy fuel, they can buy milk, they can buy bread. They could even buy beer if they wanted to. We did not restrict it. If they were age verified, they could buy whatever they wanted from our stores with that. And that was the beginning of building culture and community, and the Yesway story really starting to take off. And last but not least, the lead from the front part, when I went and did store tours, I was touched. People were literally risking their lives. And you talk about a culture clash and seeing it. I'm based out of Massachusetts, so I'm on the North Shore of Massachusetts up in Beverly. And let's just say we took COVID extremely seriously there. My kids lost their sports seasons and schools, they were Zooming, all of that. I'm getting off of a plane in Iowa or South Dakota or Texas, completely different world. Things still open. There's culture clashes. There's all types of terrifying things to deal with. I'm in Logan Airport, 95 to 100% of the people had masks on before there was a mandate. I get off in Texas, I might be in the 5% that's wearing a mask. People yelling at me, take that stupid mask off. What are you doing? I mean, so leading from the front is serious. And, one of the things is we wanted to be the essential retailers that we aspire to be. And we instituted a program called Hospitality Heroes, where we took cash. So after loading all team members with store use credit that they could use, we armed everyone in the field. So from our district managers to our regional managers, who each regional manager oversees 5 to 6 districts, to even me and some of the marketing team that were out there in the spirit of, let's create something bigger. Let's have something where we catch them doing the right thing and reward them. And so some of these photos are some of our team members in stores where, Tom would pop up, I would pop up, our head of ops would pop up, and, it wasn't the amount of money, but we tended to do $50 to $100 to diffuse the situation, take the conflict away. Let's model the behaviors we want. Yeah, we put signs up. We did what all of you do. We had shootings. We are in open carry states. So I don't want team members in our stores on the front line saying mask up. That would happen, and people would take it out to the parking lot. Guns are drawn. That happened. So that's what we were realistically dealing with 400 stores across all these towns and communities. So we were able to stay open and navigate as best we could. Those are the things that I take great pride in. We worked with supplier partners, many of you in this room, on contact tracing to keep both of our people safe. And just really try to set love using those words in a conscientious work setting. Bring your whole self to work. We love you. And realize that that's not just tokenism. Grace. That's probably when someone asks me what is the one word that sums up the past couple of years, it's grace. It's how to deal with people, how to be humble, how to understand that the sacrifices that they're making, that they are true and real heroes. So the Hospitality Heroes program was born, and that's what it was called. And I think we're on the 6th round now. So we did 5 rounds. They spanned 2 to 3 months. And it was a mystery shop with internal folks. That way it got the office teams and the operations teams in the stores supporting the stores. It kept morale up as best we could. It diffused conflict and tense situations and made mask compliance and social distancing not political, but things that were about, hey, we're trying to help. We're in this together. And so showing a couple of photos that have been on our social media in terms of not bragging, but just out there showing and humanizing and showing that love and that grace for the people who were in those stores and were receiving that. I mean, I've never cried more in that period than I did then. Literally would go in a store and you give someone a $50 bill, $100 bill, and they fall in your arms and you don't know what to say, what to act, and it's not the money, it's the gesture. Like, I can't believe you're out here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. You left your family, what's going on? Like, you're here every day, you're working, the store hasn't closed, that's what's going on. So a lot of it was just, again, maintaining those standards. The subversive part of this, or the latent kind of under the water part of this, was clean operating standards were at the heart of Hospitality Heroes. And it was a visual cue to the consumer. It was, I can go to my local store instead of a big Walmart where there might be 1,000 people, but at the Yes Way or at the Allsups, they're wearing a mask. They're wearing gloves. And I see them with disinfectant spraying down high-touch surfaces, from door handles to coffee counters to everything. Felt a little more comfortable. Whether there's science to that or not, I like to think there is. I mean, we all talked about, fewer people by definition, and speed of service means that people getting in and out quickly. And of course, the acceleration of all the tech stuff that all of us did. So it also, because we were coming together as two brands, this COVID helped accelerate it. I mean, the first time we had dual logos was we supplied every team member with masks. We gave everyone trucker hats. Christmas of 2020, we gave everyone a coat that had the Yes Way and the Allsups logo. And in this together, very conscious. Let's build culture, build teamwork and trust while we're fighting this together and really working through and navigating it. I think as a merchandising group and a marketing group, we took pride in being flexible. The show had to go on. I mean, we were building new stores. This was one that opened in April of 2020. And part of the challenge that I had for my group was we have to identify maybe vendors that are not part of our price book or ones that we don't currently work with. But you got to think differently. And I mean, the words flexibility and agility reign true. This Yesway was a site that we did in 2021. This speaks to taking Allsup's food program inside of a Yesway. This is Brownfield, Texas. This is one of our best stores. Happens to have truck diesel as well as an MPD and gasoline canopy right out front, drive-through, and all of the key things that customers are seeking, but had to keep rolling even though COVID was disrupting us all. So really, the three things that I wanted us to focus on, or that we did and got us through it, I will say quasi-successfully, is the Hospitality Heroes program is now part of our culture. So we look at our people and our team members as the heroes that they are, and they think hospitality. How can I enhance the customer experience? How can I be a better service provider? So those are very conscious. Supply chain, flexibility and agility. I know my category team was sick of me, but it was, hey, try something else. Look at another wholesaler. Buy a different pack size. And we were lucky to have a grocery wholesaler as well as convenience. So we were able to, navigate that fairly well to get what we needed, when we needed, keep stores stocked, and maintain the velocity on shelf. Even trying to predict. We always say merchandising or marketing is art and science. Well, the science is easy. That's data-driven. That's the quantitative piece. The art, that's the hard part. That's the instinct. That's the gut. That was me saying, we only need masks through the second week of April, and Lisa saying, I don't know. I think you might want to get masks to last you through end of the year. And okay, let's trust in that. Then that no one has them, we have them. It's a big win. And last and not least would be the acceleration age. And so that's what I have been coining and calling the COVID era. Because everything technologically that's being talked about today was on each of our roadmaps. It might have been 5 years out, it might have been 7 years out. It moved to the front of the line. We wanted curbside, we wanted frictionless, or it was contactless, then it was frictionless. We want the ability for mobile ordering, mobile payments, ACH to reduce fuel prices, stack and save fuel perks or rewards on gallons. All of us are doing that, and we certainly accelerated and did that to meet the consumer's needs and plan to do a lot more. And so through the integration and our loyalty programs and just our core growth, and even food service is something that falls into that. It was accelerated. It was, hey, this food service program is COVID-proof. Let's get it out there. And so we rolled. And last, have to celebrate a little bit, but CSD, John and the team were gracious enough to recognize us in what I call the most prestigious award that the industry gives. And as a glorified startup, if I rewind 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I didn't know what a Yesway was. And to then at this year's NAG show, which was a big industry event that got us all together for CSD to honor us with the convenience store chain of the year, that's the spirit of striving for excellence. And it's striving because we're always going after it, day by day in every way, trying to get better and better. And then I have a phrase with my team, win with winners. We align ourselves with winning suppliers, with winning partners. I want winners who work for my team. You create a culture, and then we win, and it becomes almost contagious. And so that has what has guided us the past, really, it's all going into our third year now with COVID. And as I said, with John, we didn't know what it was going to look like. We don't know what it's going to be in the future, but I think we're all better off. And now we do have a playbook for the next thing that comes along.
Wonderful, thank you both. So to start off the questions, a few questions on the labor front. Derek, if we can have you take this one first, since you already talked a little bit about it. How have you seen the mindset shift on the labor front for retailers? What's changed over the last 2 years?
Wow. I think, for many of us, as we've talked about in the breakouts, it's not just about pay. right? So I think you're right to say mindset. It is some of the grace and the love and the care and the compassion, but being a more attractive workforce or workplace or more desirable. So I know my team focuses on how do I make a team member's job in the stores easier. And I always say if you make it easier to do business with us, we end up doing more business. So from that aspect, I would say that has been the biggest shift, is that all of us will say no registers in the corporate office, got to be in the stores, but I think everyone means it and understands that now.
Yeah, I think from our perspective, it's not a labor market, it's a labor war right now. And figuring out how you can differentiate yourselves between your competitors and figure out what is going to get people into your organization. And so with our team, we're focus on the fun attributes of what makes Cohen who we are, and really try to figure out all those details as far as asking team members that don't want to come work for us, why didn't you choose Cohen? And we're kind of in a phase now where it's really being hypersensitive on making sure we're doing anything and throwing spaghetti at the wall, see what sticks, and then ultimately analyzing it and trying to drive forward. So we've seen a little bit of a momentum in the last few weeks and months. I think our vacancy finally went sub 10% for the first time in a number of months since COVID. And I think those little steps every day, doing stuff a little bit differently and trying new things, is really what's making an impact. And the overall data on the labor market, I think COVID really pushed. I've seen some data that's coming out in the next couple weeks as a preliminary. But when you look at the labor market as a whole, you see all these baby boomers that really started to exit the workforce earlier. And so now we're really competing on a certain subset of the labor market. And that's where we're just trying to do whatever creative things that we can bring to the table to have folks really decide to come for Cohen.
Great. And Derek, you mentioned a number of things that YesWay started doing when the pandemic first started to incentivize and celebrate employees. Can you talk a little bit about how you're specifically incentivizing or motivating employees now at this point in the process?
Yeah, I mean, I think compensation always has to be linked to the core competencies or whatever the key performance metrics that you want or KPIs you want for your business, right? So that's baseline. Like, let's put that out the window. If I want more margin, then I reward category managers, store managers for delivering more margin per store and creating that spirit of a competition. I think layering on the hospitality heroes was a fun way, actually, to then have cash spot bonuses, a bit of surprise to it. One thing is that we do look at compensation. Store managers can get pretty sizable bonuses. And, I've learned that along the way. Rudder, Scott Hartman felt strongly about that. It was, if it's gross margin dollars, I want store managers to be making mid six figures and be bold about that. And, to the point that you just made, Colin, we're competing with a diminished workforce, so we have to be a more desirable place. So, comp goes without saying. I think the toughest part for us is the flexibility piece, right? That is where the next frontier is. And, we are struggling with that. I think within stores, there's things you can do with flexible scheduling. So COVID forced some of that. It was, hey, I work at this store, but because of COVID, I'm willing to also work at these other two and be flexible with my shifts. But in the corporate office, when you go 100% remote and then you try to come back to 100% in office, there's going to be some tension there. And you're going to lose good people, and you have to know that. So you have to have a game plan to bring that level of flexibility to bear.
And Colin, how about at your chain?
Yeah, I think for us it was really about the COVID spurred us into a hyper communication phase, right? So we were really focused on getting feedback from our team members, and we did a bunch of initiatives that really were designed to solicit that feedback. So through COVID, before COVID, we didn't have a team member engagement committee. Post-COVID, we have a team member engagement committee, and we're really focused on things that are impacting team members' lives. So it might not be $1 or 50-cent raise, but the team member engagement committee for us has really been able to give us small little ideas that team members would find appreciative on, whether it be anniversary little gifts, or whether it's the team members like, we just want a jacket, and you do the math, it's a $30 jacket and makes the biggest difference, right? Yeah. So getting team members to be comfortable to provide their feedback to us, and they've got some of the best ideas, and really harnessing that. So I think we were able to kind of, through the pandemic, leverage that, and it will be something that stays with us post.
Wonderful. And how have you been managing inflation, price increases, and supply disruptions to consumer products at your stores? Anybody want to take that first?
Yeah, I've been pounding on my suppliers now. Some is, I think we have some cover, right? I mean, people as consumers, they see it across the boards. They're consuming news through whatever media outlets that they are or social media, so they understand, right? And so I think you pass along where you can. I think, but other areas, it's strategic. So if you know the role that a particular category plays, I think that will inform what your pricing strategy is. All of us were leery of $4 per gallon retail gasoline. That is the harbinger or the canary in the coal mine of when you get above 4, there's an inverse correlation from forecourt to inside sales. Knock on wood, we've yet to really see that. So we've maintained and been strong on the inside. I think for us, it's balancing. Private label has been invaluable because that is a vehicle for value still. And we conscientiously want it to be as good as national brands, if not better quality, but at a value. And I think, some of the wholesale stuff that I talked about, it's the insult pricing that I joke about. In most convenience stores, we are known for insult pricing. If I need to get Tide, it's like, I got to pay $10 for a little box. Well, if I can have non-insult pricing and be a little more than Walmart, but significantly less than what other alternatives are, the consumer is still going to give me credit.
Yeah, and I think you have to consistently be looking at your business and know where you are on certain products. I mean, the price list coming over on a weekly basis, it just continues to grow. And making sure you're cognizant of that and keeping up with it is extremely important to make sure you're continuing to move yourself in the right direction. On my side, really, from store operating expenditures, we saw supplies continue to creep up. And so we did a couple exercises that we dubbed as Project Supply Sync and really looked at our supplies across the entirety of the business. And we used COVID as an opportunity to standardize. So we had all these different paper products coming in from here or there, just a revolution. You had two businesses coming together, folks were doing stuff. So we basically got uber focused on consistency and making sure we could control. So I know exactly what type of toilet paper dispenser I have in every single location with the exact roll. And then you supply that out and get the best cost for the individual product. So I think it's thinking critically about areas of the business that before it was like, well, that's just toilet paper. And now it's figuring out a way to, how do you manage that cost? Because if you don't, you're going to have different suppliers charging you different things. And we were able to see a significant savings on our supply size just by being critically focused on what we're putting into each of the areas of the business.
Mm-hmm. Great. And you're both doing a lot. I think you said 50 stores a year is what Yesway has on its radar. And I know you guys
Hopefully
are doing
soon
your
50.
remodeling program. So what have you seen when it comes to building and remodeling stores, sourcing equipment, materials like gondolas, gas tanks, nozzles? How has the supply chain been impacting that, and how has that affected your plans?
Yeah, I'll take that from our side first, because we have, on the small side, starting out with trying to do a big project like that, and we're learning it for the first time. We really had to kind of get back to the drawing board, because we typically on a remodel, we do 16-week type lead time to get to the remodel, maybe a 4-week lead time to remodel and move to the next one. We really had to think critically about our strategy plan of like how many sites we had in the hopper. So it was really about building that backlog of sites, because the entire process of remodels and NTIs, it's just flagged with delays and so forth, from permitting because all these offices were working remotely, to tank manufacturers. You call them and you literally could have someone make a baby faster than they could make a tank for you. And literally it doesn't make any sense, but at the end of the day, the entirety of the supply chain has all these delays in it. So you have to think smarter. You have to do bulk orders, and some of the big guys are ultimately causing some of this because they're putting in orders for 900 tanks at a time and kind of bullwhipping the supply chain to really kind of clog it up for people like us. So you got to think critically. You got to have a plan in place and really kind of lay it all out to be able to even achieve 2 new sites, let alone 50 sites.
Mm-hmm. Derek?
Yeah, I mean, I think from a supply chain, COVID taught us a lot in this aspect too. Some of the things in terms of being more predictive, to the point Colin made around buying in bulk. We've taken moves where, we'll have warehouses that we stood up just to make sure that if I wanted to yield 50 stores, and there better be 100 to 150 in the pipeline. Land banking, just getting so far out of it. I mean, acquisitions, which was our core business, for those of you who are in that space, you can't predict an acquisition, right? I mean, I've been 90% confident that a deal is going to get done to see it fall apart. And I've also been 5% that maybe this will get done. We're so far apart, and then it got done. So from that aspect, it's having 10 deals in if I want to yield one, and just making sure that our team, that you know what you're signing up for, right? That this level of freneticism in some ways, but focused, is what's necessary to stay on course, And from a remodel standpoint, we were able to get a lot of things. And I mean, it's relative because we're still small in the scheme of things. But I think as an industry, share groups, some of our buying co-ops, some of the partnerships that we have. I was with Mid-Atlantic C-Stores and was working with Couche-Tard, which is decentralized. And some of the suppliers that they have for infrastructure and for store needs, whether it's gondolas to tanks in the ground, these are third-party companies who that's all they do. And I was able to pick the phone up and say, hey, if I were to say I'm going to do 70 remodels and I need counters and cabinetry for that, is that something you can handle? If I need gondola, 70 feet per store for 100 stores, is that something that you could get for us? And so being nimble and agile once again worked.
Wonderful. John, we're a bit out of time on our counter up here. Do we have
Take one or two questions.
one or two questions? Okay. Any questions from the audience? Yeah. Oh. Do we have a mic running around? Or here, your mic is coming your way. We have one over here.
Just got a little bit of a walk. Oh,
Question for both of you, but especially you, that you came on private label. With respect to the pandemic and the supply chain shortages and stuff, how that impacted your supply chain for private label? Because you have manufacturers not wanting to make private label potentially in order to serve all the big CPG brands on the things they need.
Great question, G-Man. I think part of that is making sure your strategy for private label, that going in, you're not trying to create Me Too's, or you're not working with large suppliers. And some of it, I'm not acting like I have all the answers. Like I'll pick meat snacks, perfect case. So as Lisa and I were looking at that particular category, my tendency, my inclination was to go with a huge national brand provider who would do it for us, and they also were the cheapest on a per unit basis. As we started getting further down the path, we had a small, minority woman-owned firm outside of Ohio, right outside of Cleveland, who wanted into the industry, and we would be their guinea pig. But the quality, whoa, night and day. A couple pennies more per unit. As we started testing it and doing all of this, we're going with the quality, even if it's a little bit more from a premium. COVID hits, that disruption happens. The large player, if we would have had our private label, not only did we not have their national brand, because it was outed, ours would have been out. Instead, this nimble, regional, smaller person, national brand goes out, pepper that sucker, cover it up with Yes Way branded product and let that sell, get more trial and the value and people unsolicited. This is amazing product. Private label's tough because you really have to work with, for us as convenience retail, unless you have thousands of stores, you're a blip on the radar. As you and I know from the grocery days, with the big box, you can have 100 or 200 stores and do it. 400 convenience stores is like, 40 grocery stores. That's not what a lot of big manufacturers will want, but there's small ones that are out there that are nimble, and then you gotta work with your wholesale partner. So if you're with McLean or Core-Mark, and make sure they know what your strategy is. These are non-negotiable, and I need these set of SKUs. Today we have approaching 400 SKUs, and I'm not going to slow down on that.
Do we have a question over here?
During COVID, we received so much support from our customers that was really directed to employees. More appreciation, I think, that they've seen ever, possibly. What are some of the things that you saw on that end, and was there any way that you leverage that with staff? Because a lot of things that all of us certainly try to do was us supporting our teams and our store teams. Certainly customers were phenomenal in the kind of care that they showed for staff. And I don't know if you've got any examples of that interaction from a customer and employee standpoint, what you saw that really was an example of a new standard in that interaction.
Yeah, we saw time and time again in some of these small rural towns where, you know, these folks felt like the store was their only option to get a food or a snack item. And, you know, what we tried to do is we got inbounds for customer just recognition. It was really probably the first time for us on our info page that we got recognition for our team member versus, oh, this wasn't right on my last visit, or, you know, really customer complaints. So it was like a new thing for I remember our office HR or office manager sends me a note. She goes, this customer is thanking our team member, and she was confused as to why it was happening through the portals, because it's generally the other way if she's getting it. So what we've been trying to do is celebrate those experiences through our Cohen community page on our internal Facebook, and really try to create that culture where we're celebrating those folks. We've also, you know, taken opportunities to have luncheons for the team where we'll go and take basically over the registers and the food service operation and let the team have a pizza lunch, because they've been doing such a good job for their teams, and trying to just bolster that. It's more of a small way, but really making sure we're celebrating those examples.
Very similar, great stuff, Colin. Most of ours, that's how Hospitality Heroes in many ways got some heft to it. Yes, you have to be careful of, you know, me getting my wife to say, Derek's the best employee ever and he should get a bonus. I mean, there's some of that. But in the early days, to his point, you could see the seismic shift where unsolicited, just, I had the most pleasant experience. I haven't had a hot meal in 3 months, and I was able to get burritos and chimichangas from your store, and they bagged it up, did all of this for me. And that was one of the criteria that we started to use. So it was, you know, I mean, they all know me to a point, so if they see me coming with a DM, it's, you know, let's be on the best behavior, you have your rewards card, cleaning, all of that, to try to get it. They don't know that part. And so when that comes in, I'm coming in to say, where's John? You know, I may show up at a second shift because a customer called John out. I think the second piece, which I talked about, the acceleration of all of our co-branding, that was huge. I mean, Colin touched on it. I mean, we gave out, I want to say the cost on my coats were like $35. But these were like the North Face insulated coats, dual branded, masks, hats, all of that. And at one point, my CEO was like, you're just giving everyone all of these, you know, new apparel items. But I'm like, we're building a brand. We're building culture. We launched the Shopify site that was internally and loaded it up with all kinds of branded merchandise. When we have a team member that's pregnant now, they get a baby burrito blanket, you know, little things like that that don't seem like much, but people are begging for that stuff. And, you know, that created culture. And I price it almost at cost, right? I want to maintain the operations, but they're able to go get a polo button-up nice shirt for $20, get an Awesome's branded vest, $20. Coats, $40, you know, things like that. So those seem small, but they mean the world to folks out there.
So I'm Gabe Mora from the Kent Companies. So what, if I can ask both of y'all, Colin and Derek, so if I can tell you what separates yourself from everybody else, what screams I want to work for you, number one, or I want to go shop with you, number two, just in your eyes, real basic. I mean, what tells me I want to go to Cohen or I want to go to Yesway? What does that look like on your end?
I'll go quick. I would say in terms of wanting to work for, I hit the two tenets. Like, we try to have a culture of excellence, and we love to win. So we love that competition that leads into that. And me as a manager, I try to manage to the person. Everyone says that, but you have to. Everyone's different, and that would be one of the key lessons we all took from COVID, is understand the whole person, their home, their families, who, you know, what are they bringing to work, or how can I help them bring their best version of themselves to work? I think that is invaluable for any organization that wants to attract A-level talent. I think as a brand, you know, one of our taglines is say yes to convenience, and that spirit of positivity and choosing. And COVID forced some people. I mean, we got customers who would never go to a convenience store, but they didn't have an option. But now they're saying yes, because they realize, oh, I'm able to get milk and bread, and I'm able to get a hot meal, I'm able to fill in on my grocery shopping, and get the sundry of other convenience items. that say yes to convenience and, we say yes to winning as well, are what we try to differentiate around in terms of working for Yes Way.
Yeah, and so at Cohen, we've tried to really create the Cohen family, and I've had the opportunity to surround myself with really great people, so that we're literally there for our team members. And part of the interview process, we make sure we vet out that the team members around us are really there for our team members, and try to create a culture of winning, but also empathy and compassion for their experience. So some of the things that we have in our office are atypical to some other chains that are out there, where we try to promote the work-life balance. You come to our corporate headquarters or support center, and 5 o'clock, almost 5:15, our lights are shutting down. And we really want to make sure folks are able to have time with their family, as well as to be able to win for us. And I think that creating that experience where people understand it's a work-hard environment, but also there's a work-life balance component to it. And we're doing a lot of new stuff. And you saw at Steubenville, we just really wanted to make sure at a site like that we're having fun. So we had, that event right there was, we wanted every single team member to invite their family and friends to the site before we even opened it up, have an opportunity to take some free food, show their parents, I had people bringing their parents, their sisters, their brothers, showing the sites, getting some chicken, all in wow, and excited about it. So I think it's really just having a fun experience and trying to relay that to whoever may be coming on board with you, or potential applicants.
Great. Okay. I think that's it. All right. Thank you both.